Now it's going on YouTube. There it goes.
So today we will be talking about the Lindsay Clancy case.
Yeah.
So I want you guys to get in the comments and I want you to chat with us about what you think about the Lindsay Clancy trial. So y'all, let's get it because it's going to be amazing. This is going to be an amazing conversation because there's been so many questions around it. So, Bino, give me one question that you have around the trial.
Dude, I've been following this trial since tw when it started, 2022 comes in. Here's my thing that's really
You've been
she's
following it since it started?
well, when the day like the murder occurred and then she went to jail, it was like this big old thing, and then it went quiet for 3 years, and now the trial's actually happening. So
Okay.
and it would and then like even 3 years ago, I was like, oh, this is really tragic. Like that's really sad with what's happening, especially with postpartum. Like we didn't really have a lot of details. But now that the trial's happening, I was really like in this fence of like, let's just be real. What's happening in this world, what's happening with her and what's happening is very traumatic. It's very traumatic what happened to the kids. There's no questions about that. But here's what puzzles me is that she is a nurse. She is a nurse. There is there is absolutely no way her body for 40 minutes, even if it's in ice, to drop to 82 degrees
Breathe.
or 83. What it's just like she's like, how is it that she is able to talk? And the only thing she states out of everything is they're in the basement. Like, I don't know. That just doesn't, something's just not adding up to this whole thing. And, you know, like I know there's a lot of speculations around I'm just gonna put it out there. There's a lot of speculations around did Patrick do it? Did he not do it? He's coming in. I think his testimony was actually better for the defense than the prosecution at all.
Okay.
Like, really? Like, I think, you know, and in his defense, I want to say he's probably just like, you guys, I'm only going to speak what I want to speak on. Other than that, we've already gave forgiveness. We've already done our due diligence. We're moving on, you know, and he's trying to move on. And I don't blame him for that one bit. But what I do, the shit don't add up. Like, it just doesn't add up. Like, how is it that you can just like, I don't know, like there's so many different things where like he drops her off at the mental institution. Your wife is being committed, to something, and he takes, which is again, I have 3 children. You're taking a child skiing. And I get the argument is we're trying to keep things normal. But if she really wanted to do anything, like why didn't she do it when he was traveling to New York for 2 days?
Well, those questions never were not. I think for me, it's the 82 degrees. It's the time period in which it is. I mean, typically it takes you a lot longer to get, that low. Okay. The fact that the pills were crushed up, I mean, they
She's a
could be
nurse.
crushed up.
She's
But
a nurse.
they
She must
could.
know how to take pills.
Right. But then this is the one too. So when we talk about the way in which she tried, right? She's cutting horizontally, right? She's cutting horizontally here. Why would
Right.
she cut horizontally when you know vertically is the way that you would normally, if you truly want to work it out? I mean, just stick it with just one good time, and you out, okay? Especially in that jugular. And so that, and then the fact that falling out of the window, the thyroid being crushed, and then speaking and saying what she said, but then not being able to speak to the paramedics. Like, I mean, apparently they are really close to everything. So I'm assuming they're really close to the hospital. And that's an assumption, right? But I
Yeah.
mean, the reality is that I just
Just this doesn't make any sense. As a
not
nurse, she is a nurse. So I want people to hear this that, so a couple of things are coming out with this particular trial, which I actually am really, really excited for. they are fucking going at the healthcare system. They are,
Mm,
they have demoralized it. They are stating, they are showing every single crack in the mental health awareness or the mental health system. Good for you. Good for
hmm
you. Because postpartum has been on the back burner for many, many years. There
hmm
hasn't been a lot of treatment. I suffered from postpartum with all three of my kids. And to be honest, like when my eldest was born, like I don't remember a lot of his first 2 to 3, almost 5 months of his years. Like I look back at pictures and I'm like, wow. I mean, I remember vaguely, but I don't remember because, and I didn't have the part where I was like thought of suicide or homicide or any of that, but I had severe anxiety, right?
mm.
Separation anxiety. And so, not that like people, and even back then, and Lindsay probably heard this a lot too. Well, you're a nurse, you should be able to handle yourself, or you're a nurse, you should know what to do. And she asked in her journals multiple times, I need help.
Oh,
And
right.
no one was listening to her. Not one doctor, not one psychiatrist, not one therapist. And then what really killed me was when one of the psychiatrists, I think it was Dr. Tubbs, or however you pronounce these names, she was like, for 17 minutes, she gave her hope and listened to her. And then she medicated her.
And this is one that's interesting that you're talking about that because that's one thing that my coach talks about. She talks about the fact that you have to be, and I never really thought about it like this because I've had a therapist in the past. But what I realized even in mine was that all therapists are not created equal. All psychiatrists are not created equal. And
Mm,
all does not know and able to, and that it is a unique skill set. I have a
absolutely.
friend named Tracy who she used to be the director of Coastal Plains, which is our site facility. And one of the things I used to always wonder, Tracy, because Tracy was amazing. Okay. I used to
Yeah.
always wonder, Tracy, how is it that you are like, why do you work there? Like, what
Yeah.
is the draw, right? And
Yeah.
when she explained it to me, it really helped me to understand. Hold on, I need some more. It really helped me to understand that it really is getting almost inside their head to really understand what they're going through in order for you to be able to help them. And when she explained it in the way in which she did, it really, really made sense because listen, me and Psych, it has never been friends. And the reason why is because like if you come in there and you are, you have a heart problem, right? So, your lips may be blue, you may be ashen, those types of things. Like physically across the room, I can see what's going on with you. But whenever you come in there with a psychological issue, I can't see it. I can't assess it, right? And so, and you have to have the conversation. And so it was always very scary for me to do
Mm.
that. So I see where it can be completely challenging, but I also see the gaps in where she received care. You know what I'm saying?
So, and I can only talk about like my experience and I don't want to assume what's happening in Lindsay Clancy's world. But here's the thing that there's a 75% rate for nurses masking their symptoms. Did you guys know
Is it?
that? It's that
Mm-mm.
high. Yeah,
Wow.
masking anything. They mask, if like their belly aches, like they're like, it's fine, we'll hold off. We're only going to an extreme. Like that's why nurses are the worst patients, right? We're literally the number one, we're the worst patients in our own healthcare system because we're masking like, oh, we're gonna feel better, or oh, I don't want this medication. I don't want that because we're always anticipating what's next. We know the down pit of the hospital once you get into a system itself. So in her case, when she's like, I don't want to take meds, I don't want to take meds, like there could have been other alternative therapies for her to go into. Why I really do believe in coaching and postpartum coaching and talk therapy and whatever other stuff comes in. I just think that when they went straight to medication, it was the trigger of everything that happened. because, when nurses specifically, they're like, oh, yeah, we're fine. But I remember, like, even when my daughter was born, like, I had amnesia for 24 hours, not because I was psychotic, because I had severe sepsis. And in that moment, it's like I remember the psych team came, everyone came, they're like, because I had a postpartum diagnosis or a history of it, they just automatically assumed that I was in a postpartum state. And they didn't look into other options or other things. So when we're talking about masking and when they're saying like, well, she just appeared okay, well, guess what? Nurses are always, they're going to a lot of the times feel and look okay because they don't want to be on the other side. And so
Right.
I think that was like the one of the biggest things that I was taking away is just like how much gaslighting nurses get in their own healthcare system,
Right.
specifically in the mental health, in the mental health area. There's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of shame. She was upfront about it. She says, "Look, I need help. I'm scared. I don't want to do this. I'm hearing these things." But even with that, it's just like going back to this. I'm gonna go back to practice here. Why in the heck would she crush her pills and then drink it? Even if you were trying to commit suicide, like as a nurse, we're just going to take a handful of pills. Like, we're not going to take the time to sit there and crush pills,
It also makes me
unless she
wonder
was trying to make a
too.
sublingual or something else. But, it's just interesting.
Yeah, I always and it's another thing too about the kids, like the way in which they were, unalived. I just feel like, you and was her DNA on those bands? Like
Nope.
that's another thing. Like if her DNA wasn't on those
Nope.
bands, then what do we like? Did she wipe her DNA off and then go and do whatever she needed to do to herself? Like it just doesn't, the timeline doesn't make sense. The timeline doesn't make sense.
I think they were gone for less than 20 minutes or something, 30 minutes.
Well, so he sent an email from
His app.
they're saying that it was from the Surface Pro, but it could have been from the phone. Okay. So even if he sent it from the phone, the timeline was probably around 5:15 to 6:15. So it's probably an hour, right?
Yeah.
But even an hour in snow, I mean, it logically that doesn't make any sense. This is another thing too that doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you, like, as a nurse, why would you look up your carotid artery?
Yeah, I don't
We know
get
what
that.
that thing is. Like literally, we literally have to take
Anatomy and
CPR.
physiology, like we
Right.
know that. Like,
Exactly. And
yeah,
then do it 20 minutes prior to you taking your kids to an appointment. And so it takes time to get to the appointment. It takes time. I mean, I got two grandkids that are old enough to get themselves ready, and Lord Jesus trying to get them out the house is the whole
yeah,
situation. So
yeah,
you got three young kids trying to get them, and I don't know whether she took the other kids with them, but she took one of them, right? And so
yeah,
getting them out of the house, and then on the same computer at the same time, you're looking at this guy that Patrick actually, idolizes or he likes, right? So
yeah.
he's looking him up, and then the right around the same time looking up how to unalive yourself. Like it just that all of it doesn't make any sense to me. So that's just me.
It just
That's just
it's interesting because and then like the how did she move the bed frame to go across the window? Like why didn't if she was like here's my thing. If somebody really wanted it just to jump out the window, they're just gonna jump out the window. They're not gonna move the bed to jump out the window. Like I think that to me puzzles me the most, right? Where it's just like I mean, we
I
have
don't
all
think you're gonna jump out of as a nurse. What listen, I
but
like
why would you jump
as
up?
an L&D nurse, I love my I listen, I wanted my epidural at 28 weeks. Like if I'm gonna unalive myself, it's gonna be with some drugs, okay? It just is what it is, right?
Yeah,
We understand it. Now I ain't unaliving myself. So if y'all and listen, if that happened, y'all need to go looking for somebody. I'm saying it on this podcast right now, so you know, okay? Because I like me, okay, a lot. All right, a whole bunch, okay? So just know, and my mama said that there's no repentance for self-sacrifice. So when she said that, I said, well, okay, I can't kill myself anyway. I'm going to hell. So anyway, and then you believe what you want to believe, but my mama told me that, so I believe it. So I'm not
And
unaliving Viola. Viola is gonna be here for a long time. Okay.
but I think like yes, and there's just there as a nurse or as it comes in, like there's so many other different things about this, but it's also the journaling, the how much detail she put in, and every single person, even from the prosecution and on the defense side, states how much of a loving mother she was. And there was not a drop of like, I heard her do this or I saw her do this. There was even the nanny, the prosecution was like, well, did you see that she was trying to overpower her or something? And the nanny was even like, no, that's normal. Like, that's normal where she just wants to get her child on a regimen and she just wants some things very specific. Now, any mom that's listening to this that's had a nanny, you do need to be specific with what you want and how you want things done until they get to know you to a level where they have a little bit of ease. But in the beginning, like I even write to my nanny even to this day via WhatsApp, like, hey, Rhea needs this, Rion needs this, Rohan needs this by these times. And that's not overprotective or helicoptering of what they're trying to portray this lady who's still living in a mental hell, you know?
But
And
even if she was, I mean, I've met helicopter parents before.
who
Even if
cares?
she was, like, right, like, it's one thing if you're neglecting your child. It's a whole other thing if you're taking care of your children. And I just see that as a form of taking care of them. Like at the end of the day, and someone said, and maybe this, I hadn't heard this directly from the trial, but someone said that on her phone, she looked it up, how to deal with a sociopath. That's another thing
Mhm.
um, that I remember. So, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not saying that he did or didn't, but I mean, you know, it just everything just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. Like,
It's
mm-mm.
not adding up. There's just things like me and my husband were having this conversation the other day, and he goes, well, Bina, she was lying in snow. You can lie in snow for 20 minutes unless you're like submerged in Antarctica. Like, that's then, yes, you will then be in, like, you will die in less than a couple of minutes, right? Like, that is complete, like, you go in that, yes, that will drop you to the core. But I mean, like, she's in clothing, possibly wet in snow. Now, in general, we know that it's depending on whatever, it just, your body temperature will not drop that low for that short period of time. It just
None of
there
it makes sense.
unless it
And
doesn't
you
that
still
part.
texting. You
Yeah,
still texting the whole time. Like, what? What are we
I
talking
don't
about?
understand that part. That part baffled me. I'm like, how is it that she's texting when if you took a high level, maybe granted she did crush the pills, to make it taste better, who knows, right? We'll never know. Because supposedly the internet and all the cameras the day of the murder all disappears. Like all of a sudden it's not working that day, which my husband, if here, and that's the other thing about that. If you're concerned about your wife, and why would you leave those meds in your car? Like me and my husband had this real talk because I did have postpartum. And I never was on medications. I never had an inclination to harm myself or do any of that. Okay. But my husband never, even to this day, even if I take NyQuil, I'm not left alone with the kids. Like there's always someone here.
Well, my
And
husband didn't
so,
take my medications. Now I know every marriage is different, and
yeah.
there's different levels of involvement.
Yeah.
But my husband doesn't, of course, he's not going to come in here and talk to me like he's not going to mess with my medication. He's just not going to do it. Not at all. And of course, it's different. And, with it being, children
Yeah.
involved, then I can see, maybe there, but I don't know. Anyway, all I know is that it doesn't make sense. And I think that we have been jumping on this bandwagon, and some people are just like, they want to see it from the lens in which they want to see it. And I get it, right? I get it. But it just didn't make sense to me. And I was like, that is just crazy. I mean, like I didn't have any anxiety, but maybe I did have a little bit of anxiety. I don't like to say that I have anxiety. So that's probably the reason why I didn't have it. But I did have some depression for sure. And I always say that the reason why I had the depression was because the Lord wanted me to see that. The Lord wanted me to see um how that was, because previously I just didn't understand depression. I was like, why don't you just get up? Like, what are we doing? Like, I didn't understand it at all. And
Yeah.
once I got there and I understood that this is not a just you can just get up type of situation,
Yeah.
that's when I really understood it. And I was put on one drug, and we were flying down the road, and my son was standing. We had a Suburban. He was standing in the middle of the Suburban, and I'm a
Mhm.
hellcat when it comes to putting your seatbelt on. Okay, like don't be getting up in my You gonna put your seatbelt on in my car, okay?
Yeah.
And so when dude didn't have a seatbelt on and I didn't care, I said, well, I need to get off this.
It's so, that's the other part that's like makes me just, this is the best part about the one thing I tell people that I pray to God that this case comes into light. And I'm happy that this case is actually getting all of the attention it needs to do for the women's healthcare and for women's postpartum and the awareness around that, you know, postpartum, they're not just the baby blues. Like this is way more common than people think. And when we only have 12 weeks of 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks, and then you got to get your butt back into fucking work, right? Like, I think this is also kind of like this is like on a bigger scale now, where it's like you have, and it takes these tragedies for people to be like, there needs to be a change.
Right.
And when I was looking up, I think it was like 10, I don't quote me on how many years ago this was, but when the Bates case happened, right? When she drowned her 5 kids in the bathtub. And there's so many cases out there where these women, I'm not stating that what they did are horrible. I'm not, I promise you, I'm sure they're trapped in their own hell in their own mind with what they have done, but they
Mhm.
probably don't remember it. That's the other part about Lindsay Clancy. She doesn't remember jack shit. She does not remember anything. She doesn't recall it. She claimed that yes, she did it because of whatever her then husband told her what he saw.
Mm. Mm.
She
It's
doesn't
crazy.
remember jack shit. Like maybe now, but she like if you ever look back and hear some of her, she hasn't spoken, but even in previously, like she doesn't like if you look at some of the civil lawsuits that they have against some of the medical providers, congratulations, go for it. You should those people should be punished. No offense to anybody on this call, but it's like if you don't have the expertise in depression or in postpartum, maybe you should call a friend and help.
Right.
Like, call a
Right.
friend. That's
Right.
like me going into, I'm an ER nurse by trade. That's like me saying, hey, let me be a labor and delivery nurse and know what the fuck I'm doing.
Because we don't,
Because
okay? We
I
don't.
don't.
We don't. People
I
think
don't.
that a nurse is a nurse
No,
is a nurse. No, no,
no,
no, no, no. I
no,
am not. A critical
no.
care nurse struggles working in the ER. A ER nurse
Correct.
struggles working in critical care.
But
I
that's
struggle working med surge. Like it's not.
exactly. But that's the same thing with psych. That's the same thing in the mental like in the mental health department. A psychologist, which I just found out, y'all, like even from being in the healthcare for 25 years, a psychiatrist only gives meds, a psychologist does the therapy. Okay? And I'm just like, why? Why are we not combining this fucking shit? If you're prescribing meds, but you don't know what therapy is going on and you're not asking for previous records, I think that's also a big case with one of the hospitals that she went to, hospitalizations that she finally went to, I think in like December, is that they never got previous records from previous hospital stays.
That's a huge problem. That's a huge
Standard,
problem.
huge, huge. Standard care is, they're like, well, she seemed okay. She was telling me X, Y, and Z. I said, but she's also in the psych ward. And how do you know what she's saying is real? Like, I think there's missing this whole thing where and this is when the defense was like, well, did you not get a written consent? And they said, no, I did not. Why? Why are we not collecting? That is the number one thing we do with higher level of study, right? Whenever we're going in, whether you're a nurse practitioner, when you come, like any of these people, when you're taking the advanced history, you're going to ask for medical records.
Because what happens is, and I want the general public to know how this works. So what happens is people will come in and you'll say, what's your medical history? Oh, I have none.
Ex
Well, why are you on this Cardiazem? Why are you on this atenolol? Why are you on this Lasix? Why are you on
right.
why are you
What
on
made you
all
be
these
on these
drugs?
meds? Exactly. What made you be on these meds? What made you be on all of these different medications, right? And one of And that's one of the reasons why I'm happy that they're suing. I'm so happy that civil lawsuit going on because some of these physicians, I tell you, they need to they need more due diligence and the mental health part of this whole healthcare system is so broken and so needed on so many levels. And if you are treating depression, you know, you postpartum depression is completely different because you got hormones involved. You got a baby involved. You have a husband involved or a spouse involved. There's a lot more dynamics than just this is just generalized thing. It's just like me coming in and saying, "Well, Dr. V, you just got generalized cardiac problems."
Yeah.
There's
It's
multiple diagnoses in there.
yeah. It's I don't I for the life of me, I just cannot understand it all. I can't understand how we even got here with these children. And I so hate it. Like I so hate that those children. But I
Yeah.
think that, even her mother-in-law, ex-mother-in-law, I think her ex-mother-in-law, even she like understands you know, I don't know, like she understands like she's I just don't know.
She legit was there for her. Like she
Right.
was just like,
I feel like
she's like, she needed help. She asked for help. She called me and asked me for help. They're not listening. And she goes, and that's when she asked, her friend, she reached out to somebody. She goes, let me see who I can help you with. So, I mean, like, it's not like, she wasn't trying to get the help. Like, I just still think that how much she's been trying to get the help and from the lack of care that she has received, which 110% put her down. Someone fucked up in that situation, right? No questions. But there's still her husband that I'm still like, there's still something here because something's still wrong here. Okay. Like we can talk about this side forever, but the math doesn't add up. Like, how come why didn't she want to hurt these children when he was on a 2-day thing in New York? And if you know you don't want to leave your wife alone, like why didn't you have help? Why didn't you tell your parents or in-laws or someone to come, you know, to stay with her, who is, and I think this is why I'm a little bit more upset with Patrick, is because your wife is struggling. She's mentioned it to you. love bug, whatever she called them. I am having these intrusive thoughts.
That's if she did it.
No, I'm just saying, here's my point, right? And then he says, "Okay, but let me go to brunches with my friends. Let me go on these work trips. On these work trips, it's not like, and granted, if he has to go to work, totally go to work. But then it's like, hey, let me do here, but let me bring my parents here to support you. Like, why would you leave her alone if she's asking for help?" And this girl is probably just in task mode, just like any other nurse would do. Task after task after task after task. It's
Yeah.
just, that's the part where it's heartbreaking. And then I read one of her, or I listened to one of her diaries that was sent from the police officers on how, she was saying like they weren't able, or she was having a struggle with basically sex in her marriage, right? And she's like, I know he needs it, and I know I need it. Girl, he didn't need it. Like, let's be real. He did not need shit. What he needed is to take care of a kid and to take a child off of you and to give you some sleep. That's what he needed to do.
Yeah, and I think the 4 months afterwards, because and at the end of the day, you I don't know. I'm gonna be quiet on the 4 months. I'm gonna be quiet on the 4 months. I'm gonna
Well,
be
I can't
quiet.
say
I
shit. My
just
kids are a year and a half apart. My
I,
kids are a year and 9 days apart. But
no, 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 no. I'm talking about the 4 months after he goes on the vacation, right? So what I can't like I don't know how I would be like if my children were killed by my husband or unalived by my husband. Um, but I can't anticipate that I would be. Of course, I don't know, but I can't
everybody
anticipate I'd
has
be
their own
quiet.
way of grieving. And I
Yeah,
would
they
never, I
have.
can't,
You're
and I
right.
cannot speculate how I would be in a situation with what he's doing. Um, so, whatever he did afterwards, I'm not going to fault him for, because you have to do what you need to do in order to get your own mental health and tragedy and trauma, however you want to do that from being a trauma-informed coach. Like, do you, boo? Do you? But what you do need to do is quit lying. Like, there's some like that's it. Like, quit lying. There's just something's just not adding up, you know?
Right.
Um, and again, I'm happy that he's moved on with his life. I'm happy that, it's crazy that that girl looks just like Lindsay. They have a kid together. But it's like, if you even go back, like, he bought a house in New York, like, shortly after, and now he's moved to New York with this now wife. So it's like, this is my theory, is that he had a double life. He just doesn't want to hear it. Just like, what's it? Chris Watts had a double life. A lot of these men that do different stupid shit always comes out with a double life.
Yeah.
And they're just getting caught up into it. And honey bun, you could have just walked away. If you weren't
Yeah.
happy, you could have just walked away. You could have just asked for the divorce. And you could have just let this all-American dream, just given it up and just got her the help she needed. And for all the doctors that are out there, specifically now in the psych facility, I hope is a big eye opener for all of you to really take, when a nurse says they need help, to take it for face value and not by the objection or the subjective data of what you collect, because that shit's bullshit too. Because it's like, I can tell you a whole bunch of stuff and my body can look calm, but inside I can be going through such a big turmoil because we're so good at masking.
That's the reason why I did not like psych right there. Right there. You described it in perfect. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I did not like it for that reason. There's one guy came in the emergency department one day. He come in and he was looking he looked fine, right? And I was sitting in the triage door and they give you the paper, right? And the paper that they gave me said stomach pain. I said, okay, all right. So I got him in there and I sat him down and I said, how long have you had stomach pain? This dude full out rattled off a word salad. I said, you ain't got stomach pain. Something ain't right with you. And that was the first day, no lie, that I realized that there are two doors in the triage room, and there is a reason for that. Because he was on that door, and I was like, let me find a door to get up out of here because something ain't right. So I walked out the other door and I went out there and I was like, listen, dude, he's a psych consult, okay? Got something going on, psychotic.
Yes,
He's
it's just such a different world. And I think, from being both of us being in the ER, right? You just don't know when people come to you and they're stating, and this is a true story. I was working at the VA and the veterans, like I always tell people, like working at the VA is it's the most was one of my most rewarding jobs, but also it was probably the most tactile, scarier jobs because these men were trained to kill. Okay? Like that they were trained, you all have to remember this. They're vets. They're trained to kill. Like that is what their job was, their mission, especially Afghanistan war and beyond, right? And these men, we'd always have to ask, do you have shrapnel? Do you have a gun? Do you have this? And some of these men would be like, yes. And I'm like, okay, great. So can we step outside? Because I don't gotta. I mean, I'm in a room, and my door, I'm not adjacent to a door where I can get out, right? And so I think this also comes into that level of people just have different personas. And whenever people have different personas in life and they don't have the intent to do something, but I've gotten so many men in the military or so many men at the VA that came in that was like, yes, I have these thoughts of, I have these thoughts of harming someone and I'm bringing them into like we bring them back obviously into the ER, but it's like, we have to take them real. And we can't just be like, let me medicate this person and pray that this will work and then not have any true follow-ups. And then again, something tragic occurs and then it's like pins and needles. I
Mhm.
think, it's like, it's so sad because it's like, it should be the complete opposite. Like, I'm a big believer if everyone felt loved, heard, and supported, like the world would be a better place. If these people were listened to, they got their emotional regulation tools. Maybe they do need to be hospitalized or in a system where they, enclosed system where they can control their anger or learn to control their anger, correct? It's like, then maybe we would have less incidences. Maybe we will have less tragedies. But now that we do have these tragedies, it's like I pray that, you know, this is going to provoke more people, more females to open up and say, I also have postpartum depression and I'm not taking meds and I need real help, like
Mhm.
real therapy help. And I love y'all psychologists, psychs on here. Y'all gonna hate me for state this. Stop giving them fucking meds. This ain't no fucking candy cutter, okay? We're not sitting here handing out candy to everybody.
I think that one of the issues too is that there is this space of, I think that medications can help, but I think
Yeah.
that there are instances, I believe that even in healthcare, just in general, like there's a whole, that's the reason why I'm doing this vegan reset, raw vegan reset for y'all people out there who are raw vegans. Kudos to you, okay? Because this has not been the easiest thing, but I know that as a lifestyle that it would be amazing. But one of the things that I have felt since I have been, it's only been for this day number 5, is that I have felt amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, super, super clear of thought, and no headaches, because I don't normally get one at least once or twice a week. No headaches. It's just been amazing. And I've been able to sleep well. Like it's been a and it's because of me actually, I think that there's a lot of problems that can be solved without taking medications and with holistic measures instead of
Absolutely.
taking medications.
And kid you not, yes, yes. And postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety with hormones and with the right, you might need to go on some smaller dose meds, absolutely, for a little while. But there are other holistic approaches. What I said earlier today is that was other options given to this lady? Was other options given to her instead of like, I'm going to the psychiatrist and here I am, and now you're gonna go on Zoloft, which I've been on Zoloft before. That shit sucks. Like you talk about anxiety, it gives you more anxiety. Like it's horrible med.
But I think that there is a double-edged sword with this because she wanted to take the medication, but she didn't want to be addicted to the
I
medications.
know.
And so that double-edged sword is a huge sword, right?
It's huge.
For you to be able to navigate around. So,
So
yeah,
hard. And being a nurse, we don't want to be addicted to things or not being a nurse, right? But
right.
I think overall, I think what we're saying is that if Lindsay Clancy for the defense, if you're listening, we're behind you. You know, things up and y'all need to look at Patrick. Like y'all need to go look and we gotta talk about that.
Mhm.
And I pray that this opens up the door for anyone that has postpartum or postpartum depression to speak up, to speak out, and to get the correct help. For all the psychiatrists, psychologists out there that are specializing, I really do believe that postpartum and postpartum anxiety should be its own clinic and it should be its own subcategory because there's so many women and we need to stop putting women in the same categories as everything else because we are not. Okay.
Facts.
Like we need to
Facts.
stop that. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this is that regardless of what's happening in this world, stop treating women as if we're part of the regular population because we're not. You
Mhm.
know,
It's
and
a
it's
whole different, it's so
so
different because
different.
those hormones, I mean,
It's
good
real.
job.
Because like, and again, maybe if she was comes up and they gave her some HRTs to kind of boost her stuff up and to do other stuff, there's so many different holistic ways that could have helped and still can help. So anyone that's following us that comes in, I'm going to put we will put the suicide hotline number down below just in case if you need that. If you're feeling like you need that, please call them. And then also for the moms out there that are suffering from postpartum and anxiety, you can reach out to either one of us or please contact your doctor and really speak your voice to what you need as a woman and to advocate for yourself. Because that's exactly, Lindsay Clancy did do that very, very well. It was just
Yes.
unfortunate that no one listened to her.
Facts. Facts.
Um, but
Yes.
any last thoughts before we conclude this particular episode?
I think the last thought is I think that you summed it up really well that we have to be very intentional about putting postpartum depression and psychosis and all of that in its own category and that it needs to be something that I'm sure it's been researched. I don't know. Like we're ER nurses, right? But I just feel like it just needs to be something that is really researched and that we can work those things out for sure.
No.
That's
Well,
it.
everyone, thank you for coming on The View and the Nurses View. And we actually might just go live. We actually might just start going live on YouTube because it's actually right on our channel. And then they
Right.
will be replayed and we'll put the actual videos back up for repurposes.